Paris, 1783.
Yeah, so either of those years. And George Washington wasn't elected until 1789 on April 30th. So you just think we had no president all that time?
I think that is not why we're here.
That's a very good point. All right. It is happy hour, so welcome to Drinking Dusties, where we get to pop the capsule on some one-of-a-kind history in a bottle to let you know what's worth seeking out on your own and what may be better off left buried in the sands of time. I'm Charles Cox.
And I'm Steve Russell.
Yes, you are. And before we can get started here with a very special Dusty I'm excited to share, we probably should explain a little bit about what a Dusty bourbon actually is and why it's so special for folks who don't know.
Yeah.
Dusties are, in a general sense, bottles that you can't easily get your hands on anymore on liquor store shelves because they're several years or even decades old.
Or sometimes the distillery literally no longer exists, gone out of business during less bourbon-loving times, or bought up by a heartless international conglomerate that fundamentally changes how the whiskey was made.
Right, or sometimes it was a fire, or there was a flood, or a change in the recipe, or new sourcing.
We're getting bogged down in the boring shit here.
Yeah.
The point is, a Dusty has been collecting dust somewhere that used to be at the back of quiet liquor store shelves, but sadly, those days of walking into your local mom-and-pop package store and finding a decades-forgotten Stitzel Weller bottle are long behind us. So now you've got to have either deep pockets or deeper detective skills to find Dusties, but that's half the fun.
Well, the important half, of course, is how Dusties actually taste. And it's tough to put a universal finger on it, but in general, these older bourbons have a more robust, richer flavor. It's kind of like the difference between listening to your favorite album on vinyl versus listening to it on Spotify. The new version might be crisper, but the older one just has a much fuller, more satisfying feel. And there are plenty of different potential reasons for that, but we'll get into that later.
But not always. Even though all the scientists say whiskey stops aging once you take it out of the wooden barrel and put it in a glass bottle, there's a lot that still can go wrong with the flavors. Yeah. Most of it caused by the seal at the top of the bottle failing.
And despite it feeling cheaper, a screw top's actually more reliable than an old cork, which can dry out and easily break apart. In fact, if you're buying a Dusty with a cork, which you often are, you should pretty much expect it to just crumble when you try to open it. So be ready with a decanter to pour it into, or at least a cheesecloth to pour it through.
I just use my old bandana.
Wait, not the one with the pretty floral pattern on it, right? What if you stain your lilies?
Hey, my grandma crocheted that.
Oh, that's sweet. But we should probably get to the whiskey already, huh?
Right. But first, we should also explain how the two of us are qualified to be taking on this noble task and why people should trust our opinions.
Well, we're not, and they shouldn't.
Well, that sentiment is true, but the reality is that we're both award-winning journalists who have written extensively about whiskey for decades now.
Which means we're both old and we're enemies of the state. But we also have a great excuse to convince our families that we're not just alcoholics drinking copious amounts of whiskey.
Not just. But yes, I've covered whiskey for numerous magazines.
And I've covered whiskey at Maxim and Men's Journal, and I write and edit the annual World's Best Whiskeys compendium, and we're writing a bourbon book together.
And we're doing this.
Absolutely. Yes, we are. All right. And none of that means that our opinions, of course, are any more valid than yours, because all taste is subjective, and we don't even agree half the time on what whiskey's better.
I actually don't even usually like to rank whiskeys against each other.
Right. My taste is different day to day and my mood changes. Sometimes I just prefer something different for variety. So I like to share what I notice about a whiskey, but I'm not going to trash it unless it's really awful or unless it does something that piss me off.
And if we say we don't like something that you actually like, that of course doesn't mean you're wrong. It just gives you an excuse to yell at your screen that we're fucking morons.
Right. And they should probably go ahead and do that anyway. Go ahead. All right. To the whiskey.
So what do you have for us to try this time?
Today we're going to be trying a special bottle I'm really excited about. A decanter of Old Grandad Bottled in Bond from 1958.
Nice. We should probably point out up front that you and I have both become something of Old Grandad superfans, particularly of their Bottled in Bond.
Well, and that's mainly because of the price point, right? It's usually between $26 and $30, depending on where you live and whether your local liquor store wants to gouge you. But it is one of those rare bourbons that's delicious and well-rounded enough to drink it neat or on the rocks if you prefer, or to use it in a cocktail without feeling guilty about wasting the good stuff.
Yeah. With the rising price of bourbon, there's honestly not a lot that still fills that category.
Right.
Wild Turkey, George Dickel, Evan Williams.
Yeah, Old Grandad Bottled in Bond is simply one of the best bangs for your buck out there. So that's why we're starting with that.
Aw, you're taking the old one away.
Bait and switch,
Yeah.
all right.
Aw, what? I have to wait for the good stuff? That kind of sucks. You're a tease, man.
Yeah, I know, but I've got to, I got to set the foundation, and I do love an opportunity to be an asshole, and from time to time.
You really
All right, so let me pour this for us.
Okay, let's have some.
All right, and as always, we prefer to drink it neat at first, and then we add stuff to it later as we need to. Oh, man, that smells great.
Smells like bourbon.
Yeah, there's cinnamon, there's brown sugar, whatever. But we definitely, I might put some ice in this later, but that's something, you know, obviously anybody can drink it how they want, but there's no shame in drinking whiskey how you damn well feel like it. All right, let's actually taste it.
Let's do it.
Mm.
Yeah.
It is very warm. I definitely get a lot of, there's a lot of cinnamon, there's a lot of, but there's also that brown sugar, that caramel, a lot of caramel.
It's a damn fine bourbon for $26. You don't find that value too often anymore.
No, and it's interesting to me how much better the bottled in bond is than the 80 proof, 86 proof, or 114 proof that you see, just in my opinion.
Right.
I find the 80 and 86 are just too weak to enjoy on their own. The 114 is too harsh, but the 100 is a sweet spot for me.
Yeah. I love how the labeling feels like it hasn't been updated in like 50 years.
Absolutely. I mean, that's probably why the price hasn't gone up much. You know, everybody overlooks it because it looks cheap, but I love the nostalgic look, especially because it's authentic. That old school vibe, not wanting to try to keep up with any latest trend is honestly a big part of its charm.
Yeah. If we were here just to taste this particular bottle, I'd call that a pretty good day. But we've got this special Dusty we need to drink.
All right. Okay, full disclosure, we, as you probably guessed from looking at it, we actually opened this one up already recently sitting at a picnic table outside a taco shop in Stanton, Virginia, much to the chagrin of the angry chef/manager who came up and told us we had to put it away.
To be fair, we were right by the street. Cop cars were whizzing by, illegally drinking whiskey on his restaurant's property. So I can completely understand why dude might not want to get cited for our idiocy.
Well, we had to try this bottle to make sure it wasn't total garbage before showcasing it to you guys, because to be honest, it didn't inspire a lot of confidence. Oh, I broke the tax stamp. There's no going back now.
I didn't want to have anything to do with it at first.
I don't blame you. I mean, it was filthy. It's covered in grime and mold. A third of the contents had evaporated before we ever opened it. The tax stamp strip at the top was still in. It was intact, but it was weirdly positioned.
Yeah, you can see it going across the lip of the bottle here, which is kind of what they had to do with old decanter shapes sometimes. I think the guy who did the tax strip would sometimes be like, where am I going to put this? He couldn't put it over the top or just break right away.
The estate sale I bought it from wasn't even sure what it was. They called it Old Granddad Liqueur. Chad, throw up the pic on screen from what the estate sale to show people what we were looking at.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah, I had to. It was a leap of faith to buy this. So as you can see, this is not something you'd normally want to put in your mouth, let alone spend any hard-earned money on. But there were two key motivating factors to me in buying this. One was just that bottles of Old Granddad that are as old as this one, and this one's been dated to 1958, usually cost several $100s if you can even find them. And so this one I bid all of $7 for.
He said $7, people.
It was so cheap I couldn't not buy it.
Yeah, right. The risk wasn't in wasting money, but it was in potentially poisoning yourself. You really had no idea what was really might be in there.
That's why I made you drink it with me. And I had high hopes that it was the original juice. I mean, the fact the tax strip was still on there inspired a little bit of confidence. It made me think there was a pretty good chance it had never been opened. And obviously, if it didn't look like total crap, I never would have gotten it for that price, anywhere near that price in the first place.
True that.
So I did some research online. I found an identical unsoiled Old Granddad decanter, confirming that this was, in fact, a 1958 bottle, getting to see what it should have looked like if the years had been kinder to it than they have been to you.
Right.
Chad, show everybody what the bottle should look like. Yeah, nice shot. So you see,
Chad,
come on, Chad.
Chad. Okay. All right.
So you see, that's what it looks like when it's pristine. So it's worth pointing out that this particular bottle, not this one that we have, but that one has sold at auction in recent years anywhere from $575 up to $900. Even an empty one is on sale on eBay for $35 to $90 on Etsy.
So you could have made a tasty little profit on this bottle, probably.
Well, except we're here to drink these bottles. We're not here to sell them. So as you can see, I cleaned the bottle up a little bit, make it feel a little more presentable, and not feel like we're about to drink raw sewage.
Hey, we're not heathens. We only drink baked sewage. So what did you use to clean the bottle up without, damaging the label or maybe breaking the seal in the process?
Yeah. So I went out with paper towels sprayed with Windex, worked the glass. I tried to stay away from the label, although as you see was already really damaged, and stayed away from the mouth of the bottle because I didn't want to ruin the flavor when we eventually drank it by getting some Windex inside. Chad, actually, there's a clip of me cleaning the bottle, so you can sort of see what that looked. You can see how dirty it was and how I was cleaning it off.
Look, meticulous, nice.
Hey, man, I wanted this to look nice.
Well, it makes sense. I appreciate you doing that.
Well, I also didn't want to have to pour the bourbon out through unidentified grime here at the top, so I took a glass of vodka because I didn't want to waste good bourbon on cleaning it, but that would have worked fine too. And I took some Q-tips, dipped them in, and I really scrubbed here around inside the mouth but down to the decanter just to get some of that grime out because I didn't want the whiskey pouring across that. But I also didn't want to rip the tax strip before you and I tried it.
You're so handy. But man, are we ever going to drink this damn bourbon?
Yeah, all right. So here you go. As always, we're going to sip it neat first, and then you get to doctor it as you see fit.
Oh my goodness.
So excited.
Yeah. Do a little swirl.
Mm-hmm. You can't taste it yet. Just sniff. Oh man, that's so good. It's so sweet.
Yeah.
Oh.
Smells like bourbon.
Yeah, and crucially, I'm not smelling anything that's off from its years in what was obviously suspect storage. But yeah, with these decanter bottles, the top, as you see, is almost always loose without a good seal, which is why a good third of the contents had evaporated before we ever even opened this over the decades. So that space got replaced with outside air, which can sometimes oxidize a whiskey and skunk it. So that's always a fear.
Yeah, it smells fine to me. I'm going to give some notes a shot.
All right. You go instead of me. All right.
Cinnamon.
Okay. Yeah.
Brown sugar, caramel, old wood,
Yep.
and a bit of alcohol burn, and some rye notes. But this ain't a rye.
No, but it's definitely you smell that. You smell that. All right, let's taste it.
Taste it.
Oh yeah, that old wood you mentioned.
Yeah.
It's like you open an old desk. God damn, that's so great.
Yeah,
great fucking bourbon.
Honestly, it's still it lives up to the first time we had it. It's one of the best pours I've ever tasted. Seriously, it's not that it's got some crazy unique flavor. It's just really perfectly balanced and well-rounded and deep. It's rich and sweet, but not overly sugared. Just damn close to a perfect bourbon.
But it does still have the pronounced spice. You mentioned rye. It definitely has that, but that slots in so perfectly along with the vanilla and caramel. And there's like a fruitcake note. It's like got this cooked fruit note that's really awesome. And it's just really thick. There's like an oily feel in your mouth.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the longer that oily flavor lingers and it just keeps going, you get more old oak and almost a bit of like smoky pipe tobacco.
Yeah.
Maybe that's like the dustiness. I mean, it's not at all unpleasant.
No, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's really, really nice. Man, I love what you said about tobacco and old oak. Like it does have that, that smell when you go into like
an old person's house?
An old person's study or a
right,
library.
Right.
That old, like old bookshelves with books.
Smoker.
Yeah. But it does. It has that amazing quality to it that you can't quite put your finger on.
I can see the plaid wallpaper right now.
But it's still sweet. Like the sweetness is still the prominent.
Yeah.
But also the spice. I mean, it's all these things that, as you said, so well balanced, just across the board. Everything is in its place, well rounded, and I wonder if that's from so long in the bottle. It mellows everything out. Like we were saying before about being smooth and well rounded versus maybe being like some of the more recent version, which is still a great bottle. But the flavors are crisper, more pronounced, but they also don't necessarily make a cohesive unit.
Is this from that old Granddad was made by National Distillers?
Yeah. So National Distillers bought the distillery and the brand around 1940, but I mean, there was World War, it's hazy because they were resurrecting from Prohibition, and then World War II, they put in all these restrictions where everything had to go to support the war effort, and it killed a lot of budding distilleries. And the distillery in Frankfurt for Old Granddad was pretty decrepit. It had to actually be rebuilt. So it was, but around 1949, they were making bottled and bond whiskey again.
And bottled and bond, among other regulations we'll discuss some other time, means the bourbon has to be exactly 100 proof, which is kind of a Goldilocks proof point for both of us.
Both of us, yeah. And it also meant the government was supervising the distilling process to some extent, which guaranteed some level of quality and production, but we'll get into all that another time.
A lot of folks who seek out older dusty bourbons really covet the National Distillers era, and honestly, I'm starting to understand why.
Yeah.
They owned Old Granddad until they sold it to American Brands, later Fortune, in 1987. So Old Granddad before 87 is just kind of a higher level.
Right, and there's actually more to why this particular bottle is so good. In 1962, the U.S. Treasury changed the legal alcohol limit for whiskey to be put in the barrel. Before it, the barrel entry proof couldn't be higher than 110 proof. After 1962, it could go into barrel to 125.
And the lower the proof that a bourbon goes into the barrel at, the more flavor it takes from the wood, right?
That's a scientific theory, but plenty of experts say a whiskey gets 80% more of its flavor from the wood itself.
So this came out in 1958. Our world was a little different back then.
Right. There were only 48 states, right? Alaska and Hawaii weren't brought until the following year.
We were so continental back then.
We were, yeah. Some of the top grossing movies that year were South Pacific, Cat in a Hot Tin Roof, and The Vikings with Kirk Douglas and Tony Curtis.
100% historically accurate to have Tony Curtis play a fearsome Nordic warrior.
So terrifying. Elvis joined the army that year. The Beatles first performed at the Cavern Club, but they were the Quarrymen then. The first Motown record was released, and the biggest hit song of the year was Volare.
Volare. Whoa, 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 whoa.
Please stop, please. In 1958, the Colts beat the New York Giants 23-17 in overtime to win the NFL championship, what was called the greatest game ever played.
NASA was founded, and our first satellite, Explorer 1, was launched.
You and your satellites. You love bringing up satellites.
Everybody loves satellites. It would be really cool to compare this to a 60s era Old Granddad bottled in bond to see if we can spot the differences. But that's enough for this time.
But we also need to make sure we save some of this bottle because here on Drinking Dusties, we always like to share a drink from those one-of-a-kind whiskeys with our fans. So we will be picking a name at random from our list of Patreon supporters and sending that person a sample bottle of this Dusty right here.
So be sure to support us on Patreon. And don't forget to click the button to subscribe to our channel to help us out. It don't cost nothing.
And follow us on Instagram and Facebook for more great and ironically new yet dusty content.
Until next time, keep it
dusty.
dusty. Cheers.
Skull.
So, do we think this might be like so good? Like, did it get better because it maybe got some oxygen into it?
It could I mean, it definitely, I've noticed that with some bottles. Like with my whiskey group, we've tasted these whiskeys and we weren't huge fans. And then we left them sort of half empty for like 3 or 4 months. And we came back and having that oxygen in the bottle definitely opened it up more. But that's like 3 or 4 months.
Right.
This was 50 years, 60 years.
I mean, we have no way of knowing, like, at what point of 50 years it may have been compromised and lost. Although when you first got it, it was, it already evaporated by like almost a half.
Right.
So it had to have been a while in order for it to evaporate that much.
It's wobbly, but also the cork is actually kind of wet, which is weird.
Yeah.
Even though it was at the top and it wasn't.
Well, you see that in pictures sometimes of Dusties on auction listings, and like you'll look at the cork and you'll notice like the corks. When you just assumed like how it got shipped to them,
right?
It was like on its side or something.
Or that could have been all the hobo pee.
Yeah, it could have been all the hobo pee.
Yeah, and it kept it pure in the bottle. So this this is really freaking good. Yeah. I cannot get enough. I wish we didn't have to send part of it away.
It's a little dirty. Not gonna lie, bottle's a little dirty.